Good afternoon, traders. It is Friday, February 26th, 2016, and the U.S. stock market is closed. Had another wild day today, and I will go into some of the details in just a second. But first of all, the Dow. Hey, I'm batting zero on my Dow calls here. I called the Dow up for today, and it did start up, but it closed down 57 points. Little bit disappointing if we're trading the Dow because we got a strong start and then it basically just ran out of steam here, but nothing at all serious. I I'm gonna go ahead and call it up again Monday because we really didn't have a sell-off today, and it was just basically taking a breather from this big run-up. We had a good day as far as the statistics go. We closed out over $5,000 in closed out trades, which was better than what we had yesterday. The big news has to do, we are carrying over $16,000 positive over the weekend and going into Monday, and I will explain that a little more in just a second. We had one huge, humongous trade, which I'm going to discuss in the last chart. If it wasn't for this one humongous, beautiful trade, we would have had a crappy day because the pattern where we get into stuff up here and then it sells off the rest of the day, that's a deadly pattern for us, and that did in fact take place. It was just we had such a huge single trade that carried the day that was still wildly positive with over $16,000 in profits. I will show you one of the more frustrating trades we have together. This is DeGaz, which is inverse natural gas, and we had bought this yesterday, and I'm going to talk about a roller coaster yesterday. It went wildly profitable up here, then pulled back totally, went to a negative, and then came back just a little. So we're holding a little bit of profit on the close yesterday, and then it went wildly positive this morning, which of course we like to see. It did pull back just enough to basically stop us out with profits, but those profits were pretty good. We have almost $5,000 here in profits by the time we get out of the gas. Then the thing does a little dip and then pushes up again, and it gets us back in. So we get re-entered here, and then it fails from there. So we end up we made $5,000. We ended up giving back 3.3 thousand in the re-entry, and of course we're not out of that yet. We don't know what's going to happen, and God knows. I mean, this thing could go either way on Monday. We'll just have to wait and see. We did have one pretty good smaller trade. This is Trillium Therapeutics, and we bought this. Looks about the third hour, and it did move pretty darn good about was a couple hours ago, and then it pulled back a little, but we're still holding over $2,000 in Trillium. So that looks really good. Now I'm going to show you the trade that totally dominated the day. This is potentially the biggest trade in almost 2 years. This is SunEdison. We talked about this yesterday. We had bought this thing on a breakout down here, and it never looked back yesterday. Ended up closing. We were up like $7,000 or so on the close on SunEdison. And then I knew from the aftermarket that this thing was going to go absolutely crazy. It did go crazy. This thing gaps up humongously. I couldn't believe it. In hindsight, I think, well, why didn't I take profits up here? But anyway, up here, this biggest trade in 2 years was up to $40,000 positive. That's one trade, one stock is up to $40,000 right here on top. And then it commences this pullback. And it was just kind of like having little pieces of skin torn off your body throughout the day. Now, it closes here. This thing is still up $23,000. I mean, when was the last time we had an open trade on one stock of $23,000? Been a long time. So this is pretty good here, but it's still, you can't help but look at where it was here, and you're looking at this and thinking, what's going to happen? Is this thing going to fill the gap? Well, you know, I hate fundamentals, okay, but I have looked in the fundamentals of this thing, and there was, hard news that propelled this. It had to do with a court ruling, a judgment that came down, and I think there are real legs supporting prices on SunEdison, and I haven't made it. I got to think about it this weekend. Okay, haven't absolutely for sure decided. The system, of course, holds. Well, we're not violating the system by holding this thing, but I'm thinking of holding this beyond Monday, when obviously the thing's going to get out of it per the system. And I'm doing that just because I think the upside potential here could be really tremendous. At least go to 5 or 6. I mean, I've heard some people say it could go to 20. And we are so perfectly positioned here, put a stop at break even all the way down here at 1.5. You can be almost certain it's not going to get back there down. It's going higher. So I'm thinking about that. I'm just talking out loud now for the video, but I've probably in the last 1,000 trades I've taken, this is by far the best. This looks best. This is just nirvana. Looks fantastic in spite of it pulling back this morning from this initial high. So, as I say, going to be thinking about that. Had a good day, and say I'm not going to be putting stocks out of my mind. However, I'm going to be thinking about SunEdison all weekend. Hope you guys have a better weekend, and I will be back here online on Monday.